Modern Dinosaurs. Written by Samuel James Iler. Narrated by Benjamin Michael Tanner. Art by Jeremy Hers. This is the first of a series of audiologs recorded by William McKay. I'm a professor of paleontology who works for the New York Museum of Natural History. And for 10 years now, I've been gathering information on various species of living non-avian dinosaurs that have either been genetically engineered or, through one way or another, have managed to evade being discovered by modern humanity by living in isolated and remote parts of the world. Audiolog number 1. Species: Carnotyrannus. Name meaning: carnivorous tyrant. Diet: carnivore, predator. Size: 45 feet from head to tail. Weight: over 10 tons. Historically created illegally through genetic engineering and experimentation, the single Carnotyrannus in existence is the product of a madwoman. The scientist who created it attempted to prove mankind could prove superior to evolution in its ability to create life. In doing so, she created a monster, a male genetic hybrid of Carnotaurus, Ceratosaurus, and Tyrannosaurus rex, a mega predatory theropod that was prone to killing anything that moved. At first, the creature was content to be fed and waited upon while it was studied and monitored. But as it grew to maturity and its ferocity and strength increased, the scientists observing and studying it grew careless. Then one day, as feeding time began as usual, the creature, pumped full of testosterone and aggression due to its reaching maturity, escaped containment and, finding himself free, proceeded to rampage through the laboratory, killing all the staff and security present. None survived its rampage, and the beast escaped into the dense South American jungle beyond, where it has lived ever since. In the jungle, the Carnotyrannus's green and black striped coloration hid him perfectly, allowing him to ambush his prey and hide from those that might seek him out. The Carnotyrannus is also an adept, powerful swimmer due to its ceratosaur tail. It also possesses the Ceratosaurus's arms, giving it 3 clawed fingers. The Carnotaurus genes have given it horns, great running speeds of over 30 miles per hour, and a rapid snapping bite, while Tyrannosaurus rex, the base creature, has given the Carnotyrannus size, strength, a bone-crushing bite, and moderate intelligence. Added to this is a fearsome, overstimulated prey drive that causes it to kill anything that moves when hungry, likely a result from a lack of stimulation from its life in captivity. Now, having haunted the wild for years, it hunts whatever the jungle can offer: jaguars, caiman, tapir, capybara, anacondas, fish, cattle, horses, and even humans. The locals know of its existence, but not knowing its true nature, refer to it as Sombra del la Mature, Death's Shadow, and see it as a monstrous deity. They do not seek it out, and they do not truly know what it looks like, for the creature comes only at night, and like a shadow, it stalks silently and without perception. Anyone who looks upon it has died, and few traces remain. The only traces it leaves are blood and monstrous footprints left from when it raids their lands. Sometimes strange roars are heard from the jungle, and when this occurs, the locals know to get as far away as they can from the wrathful god lurking in the jungle outside their homes. When the local villagers wake to carnage amongst their livestock, they silently nod to one another. They know that Death's shadow, the vengeful god of the forest, is on the move. Several years after the creature escaped into the wild, the U.S. government sent First Lieutenant Frank Carlson to investigate Dr. Hayden's work and her disappearance. After obtaining personal computer and decrypting her files, Carlson found the location of her lab, along with clues as to what kind of experiments she was conducting. Carlson then went to the Amazon rainforest by plane and took a boat upriver towards the location of the laboratory. Along the way, he stopped at a local village for the night, and several of the villagers recognized Dr. Hayden after Carlson had shown them a picture of her. When asked if they knew where she was, all they said was that she was gone, that she was taken by Sombra del la Martor. Later that night, as Carlson tried to sleep, he heard a loud roaring sound coming from the jungle. The villagers kept whispering Death's shadow over and over again, clearly frightened and hoping that they would not be the creature's next victim. The next day, Carlson went alone into the jungle. As he trekked through the jungle, he stumbled upon the footprints of the creature, trying to keep the fears slowly building inside him in check. The next day, he found the lab where the Carnotyrannus was created. As he explored the inside, he found that the place was strewn with blood and remains, and eventually he found the remains of Dr. Hayden herself. He also found where the Carnotyrannus had broken out, and even Dr. Hayden's research notes. The next night, as Carlson sat in his tent, he discovered the truth about Dr. Hayden and her creation of the Carnotyrannus. Not long after uncovering the truth, he heard sounds coming from outside his tent. He readied his gun, and before he knew it, the Carnotyrannus tore his tent open and bit his left arm off. He tried to get away, but due to his severe injuries, he wasn't able to get far. The Carnotyrannus bit down on him, lifted him up, and threw him up into the air, and swallowed him whole as he fell into the creature's jaws. His report was never sent, and a team that was sent to retrieve him uncovered only his journal, his destroyed tent, his weapons, and his laptop, which was soaked with his blood. Traces of saliva were also found, and DNA testing found that it belonged to no known species of animal. Officially, Carlson and Hayden's death were attributed to a man-eating jaguar, and no second attempts were made to search for them. However, sightings of the Carnotyrannus continued, and eventually it reached a point where the U.S. government could no longer ignore it. After gathering more intel on the creature, the government was finally able to identify it, and a special forces team was sent to the Amazon to exterminate it. The team consisted of Major Ryan Blake, Private Janet Collins, and Private Ed Sankas. Private Sandra Taylor, Private Nick Hoffman, and Private Clark Anderson. Upon the first arrival to the Amazon, they searched for the Carnotyrannus for nearly a day, finally encountering it at dusk where it killed Anderson. After this first encounter, the creature disappeared back into the jungle, proving to be stronger, smarter, and more elusive than they had anticipated. Later that night, the creature killed Hoffman, and the following day it killed Collins and eventually Sankis. With only Blake and Taylor left, it seemed that their mission to exterminate the Carnotyrannus was destined to fail. However, Taylor received intel that Mount Peluda, the only volcano in the Amazon, was on the verge of erupting. After getting this information, they requested emergency pickup. Their superior officers at first denied their request, as the Carnotyrannus had not yet been killed, but Blake managed to change their minds by arguing that since the creature lived within close proximity of the volcano, it would likely be killed in the eruption. Their request was then granted, but they had only a limited amount of time to reach the extraction point before it was too late. If they didn't reach it in time, they would be left for dead. The Carnotyrannus pursued them all the way to the extraction point, and when it had them cornered, the volcano began to erupt. Fortunately for Blake and Taylor, the chopper sent to retrieve them managed to rescue them just in time, and they flew away as they watched the Carnotyrannus fall into the volcanic fissure that opened up beneath it and burned to death in the lava. The Carnotyrannus was indeed a terrifying and formidable predator, and God only knows what further havoc may have been caused had there been more than one. Dr. Hayden set out to prove that humanity was superior to nature, but all she really did was create a monster that had no place on this earth. Hayden's work would go on to inspire others to create their own genetically engineered dinosaurs, which I will cover in future logs. As terrifying as the Carnotyrannus was, however, other species of modern dinosaurs would later be discovered that would prove to be more terrifying, and they, too, will be covered in future logs.